good morning, and welcome to a Thursday morning live. Like I say, normally I do a Wednesday night live, but I just ended up not doing one. I was engaged in watching Cyberpunk Edge Runners, and when I realised what the time was, I thought, "Oh dear, I've missed my slot. I've missed my go time by quite a significant amount." So I thought I'd do this and make up to it for you. But yes, to be honest, quite a bit to talk about. To be honest, today. And it really is where to begin. There's quite a bit. Ooh, there we go. Oh, Eric, good morning to you. Like I say, good morning to the people just joining in. But yeah, there's quite a bit to talk about this morning. Hello from Germany. Well, good morning to you, or guten Morgen, should I say, to you, Eric. That's probably a very, very Yorkshire way of accent of saying it. So yeah, where to begin? Where to begin this morning? Now let's start off with Trump, because Trump, oh my word, is in trouble. So as you've been, or may not been following the news, there has been a lot of talk about the secret documents that basically Trump seems to have straight up stole for, as at the moment, some unknown reason. Some of them involving top secret nuclear codes, even some documents that are so secretive you're not meant to even remove them from certain rooms. That's how secretive some of these files were. And Trump has been pushing for what he has called a special master. And these special masters, basically, I went to look through all these documents and basically just say, is this secret or not? Is this meant to be top secret or not? And people were worried because the special master that had been appointed was a Trump appointee. And now this Trump appointee has turned around and said, "Put up or shut up, guy." You know? So he hasn't sided, as many of us, I think, were sort of worrying about, would he side with Trump or not, because, he was a Trump appointee. Turns out he ain't siding with Trump on this one. So that is still something that is going to develop, and I think going to hit quite big when it comes. So we'll have to see what the next, the next play. We'll have to see what the next play on this is. Oh yes, sorry, I haven't been reading the chat, but yes, good morning to everyone. Reagan Light, Jay Clink, good morning to you. John O'Sullivan, good morning from Tipperary Ireland, good morning to you. Haggard Shanks, good morning to you. But yes, good morning to everyone. Like I say, I didn't do a Dutch morning. Dutch morning to you. Morning all, what's the UK government's been up to now? To spark a morning walk. Well, Nicole Dismid, I didn't do a Wednesday night live last night, so I thought I'd do a Thursday morning walk live. But to be honest, there was lots of stuff happened. So That's one thing that's happened with Trump. The second thing that has happened with Trump is, if you've been following the ongoings in New York for the past 3 years, the New York Attorney General has been after Trump for basically dodgy business dealings, is the best way to describe it. And now their Attorney General is basically trying to stop all of Trump's businesses in the New York state from doing business, and that Donald Trump and his family cannot hold positions in any company that operates in New York. And that includes a lot of his business. So, yeah, Trump's in trouble. Trump is in trouble. Massive trouble. If one investigation doesn't get him, chances are the other one will. And we can only hope that really both do. Because that will be quite funny if that happens. Oh, dear me. But yeah, that's the Trump news that happened. And oh my, pretty bird, greetings to you. So that was the Trump news, the Trump update, the Trumpening. On to the next. Oh yes, Putin. Putin basically has announced mobilization. Well, not full mobilization, partial mobilization to go into Ukraine, and this indicates just how bad Russia is doing. Because if you were, the Kremlin has been putting out that, oh, we don't need to mobilize because this isn't a war. This will be over really quickly. I think if you'd have said to a lot of people back when this first started that this would be still ongoing, and that Russia would be not only stopped, but has actively taken massive losses and lost a lot of strategic ground, I think a lot of people would be laughing at you. I really think they would. But that is where we are now. And I can only laugh at the fact that there are, as we've covered before, people out there who are determined to say that, oh, no, everything's fine, guys. Everything's fine. When it's really not on the Russian side. And there's a lot of people going, oh, well, look, you see, now the Ukrainians can't win because they've mobilized all this extra manpower. Well, first of all, that is going to take a significant amount of time. And there are questions already being raised about, does Russia actually have the bureaucracy to be able to handle that amount of mobilization? And even then, if they did, it would still take time. The idea that you would have, this amount of troops, it's going to take months for even maybe the first amount of those called up troops to reach the front line. And then they're not all going to arrive at once. So this is one of those situations where eventually it might have some sort of impact, but not for some significant time. And during that time, I think the Ukrainians are going to win back more territory. Almost certainly in that time. And then where does that put Russia if it gets forced out of all these, locations? We've also seen that these currently occupied areas are now having referendums. And if you know anything about the Crimean referendum that happened a couple of years ago, the questions on that ballot paper were basically, do you want to join the Russian Federation, or would you like to join the Russian Federation? So yeah, this is going to be an absolutely sham. I think it's good to see that everyone in the world has gone, yeah, that's a bit of a sham. Oh, FSM, good morning to you. Oh, Ben, good morning to you. Any good news? But one of the key things, of course, is that because he's announced his mobilization, this has sparked a lot of protest in Russia. Because one of the first things that Putin did when he came to power was he tried to get rid of the conscription system. Oh, Z, good morning to you. Veronica, good morning to you. So, because he did this, he sort of became quite popular. In fact, that was one of his original goals. It was one of his original pledges when he first became, president of Russia. So, the fact that not only has he performed a massive U-turn, he has done something which in Russia itself is seen as an incredibly unpopular move. So this is going to have an impact. How much of an impact, we don't know. We've already been seeing protests yesterday because a lot of people, well, again, a lot of people in Russia, if you've been seeing what the Kremlin's been putting out right from the beginning of this war, basically saying, yeah, we don't need to call mobilization or anything like that. Don't worry about it, guys. We got this. We got this special operation in the bag. Don't worry about it, guys. Yeah, it's pretty much admitting that Russia is having problems, especially in the manpower area. And if you look at that breakthrough the Ukrainians had in Kharkiv, from what we've been hearing, it wasn't just the fact that those troops there were on demand. What has seemed to come into play is the fact that these troops basically weren't well trained, weren't well supplied, and when it comes down to communication, from what we are seeing in the Russian army, they are top heavy, meaning that commanders on the ground basically have no operational say over what can happen. So, and this type of war isn't the big grand scheme type of war. that the Russians normally play for. It is very much a war of, as we've seen so far, quick maneuvering and outmaneuvering, as we saw in Kharkiv and certainly up in Kiev. So how this progresses will certainly be very interesting. I think the next big moves are, well, we don't really know where the next big moves, to be honest, are. But I still think Kherson down south might be where we start to see some more action in the coming months. But I don't know. Winter is setting in, and Ukraine is still a place where, when it is winter, it's winter, so that is going to have an effect. But one of the interesting things we did see from the retreat is that we've seen a lot of news from Russians in Belgrade saying that a lot of these, soldiers that have retreated are trying to buy up winter clothing because they have not been provided any form of winter clothing. So if it is that bad that the Russian army might not even have supplied its troops with winter clothing because it might not have expected this this special operation, as they call it, to carry on this long, then you can see why Putin is desperate for any way, shape or form to try and sort of finish off in any way he can, because he does not want this dragging on. And the Russian economy cannot take the sanctions. It absolutely cannot. There's a lot of people out there who are going, oh my God, look at the line, look at the line. Well, look at what the economists are saying. I think there's been two reports about the state of Russia's economy. One by Yale. I think there was another one recently by someone else, but I can't remember who sort of published it. But both have said, look, their economy literally cannot take this too much longer. It's, so yeah, it's how long they can last. And I don't think they can, to be honest, last too much longer. Oh, Matt, good morning to you. Oh. So yeah, good news about, good news on the north side of the Atlantic, bad news for the orange one. Jake Link, in Hogan's Heroes, threatening to send someone to the Eastern Front, especially during winter, really scared people. The cold is no joke. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Dave W, good morning to you. Oh. This is it. If they've seriously got, that lack of supply, then, oh boy, is that going to have an impact. And we already know that Russian morale is incredibly low. So, oh, Crowbad afternoon. Good afternoon to you. But that's the, I think, key point. In all this, I think we've just seen, I can't remember who it was I was watching yesterday when they were talking about this, but I think they said, when you've got to look at the Russian army, you've got to look at what they said they had on paper, but in reality, the reality of it is something entirely different. And I think we are seeing that reality, that a lot of this, Russian military may have very well been just used for chest beating. And of course, there was a special meeting in at the UN yesterday where we had all the world leaders talking. Everyone were very much sort of committing to, supporting Ukraine, condemning the, these referendums that they've got coming up. So there is, I think, certainly in maybe the next coming weeks, even months, still going to be a lot of action going on there. But for when and how long this will still go on for, well, I still think this could be going on this time next year. I really do. I think this will be very much a long, drawn-out conflict. And I think that it is going to be Russia folding, maybe on its home front rather than on its front line, that is really going to sort of take the impact, because those sanctions are having a significant effect on them. It's just, when do those really start to cripple them? But we'll see. Like I say, we'll see, and like I say, I'll keep you updated on whenever I hear or sort of see anything coming out of there. Like I say, I'm a little bit more reliable than the Duran. Oh my god! Yeah, I couldn't resist recently poking the bear. I really just couldn't resist. But I tell you what, I would genuinely love to have like a chat with one of those guys at the Duran. Oh my god. Oh. It would be a wonderful fantasist talk, Oh dear. So what's going on in the UK? So I know that's why you're all here. So what's going on in the UK? Well, we're having a bit of a policy blitz, if you may not have heard. Oh my. Ugh. Just I don't know if you can see. I always feel so guilty walking past these guys, and you can see that they've got all like the priddly needles things stuck in the mane. It's like, it can't be. See, it can't be difficult. And his tail is almost completely full. I don't know if you can see. His tail is just completely full. But yeah, anyway, that's your pony for today. It's not just them, it's little guys as well. But yeah. Oh, Mithril, good morning to you. Weather looks more pleasant in Yorkshire than Lancashire. Well, it always is. Oh. So yeah. Can't resist having a dig. Can't resist having a dig at the Lancashire folk. The War of the Roses never truly ended. But anyway, yes, back to what we were talking about, UK news. So yes, this policy blitz that we're having. So Jacob Rees-Mogg came out yesterday and announced sort of help for businesses. And looking at it, I think that some businesses are going to be sort of appreciated for it, that they've at least got some help. But I still think there's going to be a lot of businesses saying, this isn't going to be enough to help us. I think there's going to be a lot of difficulty that these businesses are going to having. And I think we'll be probably seeing today what the reaction from the business community is in the UK, from these announcements to help businesses. As I think we've said before, SMEs make up around It's like 99% of like the business structure in the UK. If you don't know what an SME is, or what we describe as an SME, it is a company with, well, it stands for small to medium enterprise. First of all, that's what SME stands for. But it classes any company that has between 10 to 250 employees. So overall, even if you're a company that has, let's say you have 200 employees, while you might be, quite a big business, in the grand scheme of things, you're not really that big. Yeah, you are probably doing incredibly well if you've had, a business grow to that size. But there's very few businesses that can really grow, to that size of, beyond 250 people. So there is, I think, going to be a lot of response today from leaders in in the business community, what their response is going to be to Jacob's Mod. So I'm going to be looking out to see what they're saying about it, because ultimately I don't think there has been enough help offered to businesses, as I was always initially worried about what I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks. But also announced was an increase to hospital and schools heating bills. Because the other thing we've been talking about is, it is not going to be a good look for the government if photos start coming out of, school kids this winter in a classroom, having to be all bundled up and try to learn in that type of environment. It is not going to be a good look. So in a way, while yes, this is a good sort of announcement, kids are not going to, freeze in schools, which again, just think about that, just think about that for a second. We've had to do this just so that, kids will not freeze in schools. What has truly happened to our country to allow this? Oh yeah, that's right, 12 years of Tory rule. And I think one of the reasons, one of the things Labour should be doing is making the case that, the Conservatives should never be allowed near the ship of state ever again. They're the ones that have steered us to where we are now. They've got no one to blame but themselves. And we're getting announcements from Theresa Coffey today of her 4-step plan of how she's going to save the NHS. One of them is to apparently get more doctors. Oh yeah, simple said as that, get more doctors. Where are we going to get these more doctors from? And there's already been a couple of, I think it's the, can't remember what group it is now, but it's a big group of doctors that have come out and said, yeah, these things that you brought out to try and help relieve the waiting times, aren't really going to help. So yeah, waiting times are only going to get worse. And yeah, so I'm not expecting those announcements to be, shall we say, well received, certainly from people in the medical community. But the one I am waiting for is tomorrow, because that is when we get the budget. This is where we see how deep these tax cuts are going to go, especially not only sort of income tax. We know the national insurance rise is being taken off. We know there's a raft of stuff coming, but we're not exactly 100% sure what it's going to be. And of course, if you watch in fact, I've got a video coming out today about what Liz Truss and Kutang are going to do to the financial services. And our financial services industry is one of the very few things that has sort of been left untouched by Brexit, because it's still sort of within and following all the regulatory rules. Are there difficulties? Well, remember, banking isn't a physical product, so there's sort of no barriers it currently has to cross. But as long as it has maintained its regulatory orbit with the EU, you know, things were golden. It could still continue to sort of function. Now, have there been problems? Absolutely, there have been problems. So it hasn't been all, you know, hasn't been all gravy, as we say here in Yorkshire. But the more these, as we are expecting these regulatory barriers to be just pulled away by Truss and Kersey, the more chaos this will cause. And we're heading into a very, very bad period of certainly economic downturns for the UK, as well as probably the world by the looks of it. So things aren't going well. And yet, as we talked about, you know, today, or well, yesterday, just yesterday evening, in fact, Liz Truss's economic plan relies on essentially nothing going wrong. And just consider that for a second. You know, you've got an economic plan being put forward by this government that essentially relies on absolutely nothing going wrong. But as we've talked about from experts and you know, other economists have been warning, there are some serious economic problems coming. The UK is still facing a lot of challenges, especially to its productivity, that these tax cuts are not going to really address. And yet, this is their plan going forward on this. And we really, really, really have to consider, you know, just how bad things are going to get. Because unfortunately, Truss and Keating are a pair of ideologues, and they are now in charge. The right-wing ideologues are in charge, and once they're in charge, they are determined to charge down this path, because their mantra for years, being in the Conservative Party on this extreme right wing, has been, oh, if you only do things our way, things will go right. Things are only going wrong because you're not listening to me. And now they're in charge. Now they've got this majority. They can do that. And when things start to go wrong, and they will start to go wrong, because I think it was Moltke, the German general, pre-World War I, Moltke, who said, you know, no plan ever survives first contact with the enemy. And the thing is with economics, it doesn't exist in a bubble, you know. Economic shocks and consequences can ripple out through into other countries and have consequences in other countries, sometimes unforeseen consequences. And the more this gets pushed, the more they're going to say, oh, don't worry, this is just a short-term pain, guys. But in reality, everything's going to be going wrong. And I think you've got to look at what a lot of economists have been saying very recently, that if the sterling gets into some serious trouble, who's going to bail them out? You know, who is there to help bail the UK out. You know, we've got government who is going to say, we're going to cut taxes back massively because it's going to sort of help somehow, going into trickle-down economics. So it's increasing borrowing more, regardless of what the national debt may be, even though the Conservatives have increased it far more than the Labour government, certainly the last Labour government we did. But that was a big criticism, of course, the Conservatives had of the Labour government. But, you know, they've only increased it more, so, you know. You've got that, first of all. Then you've got the idea that we're borrowing so much money. When do those debts start to get called? And not only that, but you've got an energy plan by where the taxpayer is expected to pay back all this money. So when does Jacob Rees-Mogg have to get up and not sound like a completely arrogant toff that he is now having to ask people to pay back all this money? And what happens when these people cannot pay back all this money? Because, as we've said, one of the things for the cost of living crisis is that while they have done something, it is not enough. You know, they are not responding to essentially what is happening now. This energy plan would have been great, 6 months ago, to what was at that time predicted. But now we know more about what's coming forward, and they've put forward an energy plan that isn't suitable for the current climate. So even though they have done something, and they've put this, energy cap on, there's still a lot of people who can't afford to pay that energy cap. Their bills are still higher because of this energy cap. And yes, you are giving some money, but when you've had a lot of landlords increase their rents as well, we're walking into so many crises. It's just unbelievable. And there is a lack of willingness to admit that things are going wrong. Because if you start to admit that things are going wrong, or that there is a problem here, then you have to start addressing other serious concerns. So that way you have to actually start addressing the problems that Brexit has caused to our economy. You have to start admitting to the fact that 12 years of austerity wasn't really a good idea. So much stuff. So much stuff is currently going on. And we're not even talking about external things in the UK. Most of these crises that we've got are UK problems. The idea that there was not going to be an energy crisis because of sort of the Ukraine war, yes, that has added to the crisis. But there was going to be already a crisis here if Vladster hadn't gone and invaded Ukraine. There still would have been an energy crisis. Might not have been as bad as it is going to be, but there still would have been a crisis. And that is where we've really come to the crux of all this, that you've got to see that we are so very badly governed above all this. And it's not just that as well, because there is another big strike at one of our biggest container ports going on. So you may remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about, well, not weeks ago, months ago now, but we talked about Felixstowe down south. That's our biggest container ports. That's where all those big containers pretty much go to and in and out of the country. That is their main port of entry and exit from this country. And there's strikes going on there. You've also also got strikes up in Liverpool. And that Liverpool port, guess what? That's the second biggest container port we have. So they've announced a 2-week strike, and it looks like it might coincide with the Felixstowe port as well. So you're going to have 2 weeks where all this stuff is happening, and we're going to get huge supply problems. And that's going to add to even more different crises. And we're getting to the point now where one crisis can make another crisis infinitely worse. You know, we are reaching the point of having infinite crises, or infinite crisis, as to borrow the DC name. You know, it just goes to so much stuff, and it comes to a point, when do we have the final crisis? You know, and this will come when all these crazy economic ideas that Liz Truss and her gang of gargoyles have put together comes crashing down. Oh, good morning, Cathlo G. Oh, good morning to everyone else who I haven't said good morning to. If I've missed saying good morning to you, good morning to you. Yeah, sounds like a Marvel movie. It's even worse. This isn't a Marvel movie, because if we were in a Marvel movie, things could at least be fixed. You know? Unfortunately, we are in the worst DC timeline. And Warner Brothers still has control of the DC franchise and still continues to drive it in some very, very bad directions. So, who knew today I would be making a comparison between the UK's economic situation and the situation between DC and the Warner Brothers, and their lack of sheer creativity, imagination to put together a coherent franchise when Marvel has already shown you this is how it is done. Oh, so yeah. Yeah, it's a DCB movie. That's exactly the point. It's just keeps going on, unfortunately. And like I say, Friday are the announcements I'm most going to be paying close attention to, because I think those are going to be the biggies. Those are certainly going to be the biggies when we get them. Of course, we've got the special economic zones, so we'll probably find out what those are going to entail. I'm sure those will be fun when we hear the rules around them. Morning. We're going to be hearing all about the new regulations, although I don't know if he will use that opportunity to announce any deregulations in the financial sector. But then Rishi Sunak's bill is poised to sort of go through Parliament to do just that, so I'm sure that'll be fun. But that is unfortunately the situation we are in the UK at the moment. Things are not looking good. Things are not looking good at all. And if you want a prelude of how I think things are going to be, you've got to look at basically what happened during the pandemic. Oh, Nick B, good morning to you. So what happened during the pandemic? Well, during the pandemic, everyone took a hit. Everyone took a hit during the pandemic. But when you look at Europe and how European countries fared and the hit they took, if you exclude the UK, I think it was Spain or Portugal, I can't remember which one. They might have been close. Spain took, or Portugal, can't remember now off the top of my head. Spain took a loss of, I think, about a 12% economic hit. Now, that's quite a significant amount. You think about it in the grand scheme of sort of, economic, GDP. And you've got to remember that 12% represents billions, if not trillions, of euros. So how did the UK fare when you look at how sort of Spain fared? We took an economic hit of 22%. So if a worldwide recession does come, then how bad are we going to get it compared to other countries? And don't get me wrong, other countries are certainly going to take a hit. That is, it's a worldwide recession. Of course, other countries are going to take a hit. But how bad is the UK going to take it compared to everyone else? Yeah, pretty bad. It's going to be bad. Yeah, exactly. Oh, Tesseract 54, good morning to you. Well, good morning to you. But unfortunately, we have reached the end of our good morning walk today. So good morning to you all. I hope you have a fantastic day, or the rest of your day today. Hope it's fantastic. We'll see you all on Saturday morning for a good morning walk, which we will probably be bringing you the news of whatever crazy ideas and theories that Kwesi Kwarteng has certainly put forward. Yeah, Mithril, it's not proper rugby union. It's blaming the current economic woes on the pandemic. Yeah. Oh, hang on. It's the worst thing walking through that area there. I've just got cobwebs all over. So yeah, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Like I say, please do remember to hit the like and share button on your way out, and remember to leave a comment afterwards as well, because that always helps the algorithms. Down below there is a link to my Patreon page. There's the one-off donation link called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. I think there is the YouTube thank you button as well, which I don't know if it exists on live streams. I think it might do. And then, of course, there is the Pony Club you can join as well, where you get badges, emojis, and whatnot that you can use when we are sort of live chatting, and you can use on the channel as well in normal videos as well. So it's a fantastic way to sort of, again, help support the channel. And yeah, like I say, thank you very much, guys, to helping support the channel. Like I say, as Cathode G has just shown one of my emojis off there. So thank you very much, Cathode G. Like I say, you can see she's got the green name and she's got the badge next to it. And she, of course, one of the emojis that she's used. So as always, thank you so much for coming and joining me today. Patrick H, good morning to you. Have a good day off to a workers' socialist meeting tonight. Well, have a good one, Mithril. Like I say, as always, thank you very much for joining me this morning. Have a good one. Caps lock. Yeah, Patrick, sorry, you're just late. You have to watch the upload when it finishes. But obviously, Pretty Bird, good evening, good night to you. Have a nice sleep. Have a nice dreams. Oh, Nico the Smith, thank you very much. It's here. Thank you very much, Nico. Thank you very much for your support there. And as always, thank you very much for everyone coming and joining me. Like I say, remember to hit the like and share button on your way out and leave a comment down below, as always. So, as always, as always, thank you very much and have a good morning. And we'll see you all very soon on Saturday for a good morning walk.